Joe Hopkins here, and I'm asking the age-old question, which is better, a Les Paul or a Strat? Now, I'm talking budget guitars here. Keep in mind, budget. When you go to buy a cheap guitar, which one's better? A lot of people have done the which is better with actual Les Pauls and Strats. So we're doing Les Paul style guitars, Strat style guitars. For all of you nitpickers out there, I know if it's not made by Gibson or Fender, it's not really a Les Paul or a Strat. You shouldn't use the name. I'm using the name. I don't care. Deal with it. So let's go over a little bit of each type of guitar and their differences. I have a rather traditional type Strat here, other than the paint job, which is pretty wild, right? This is my Hard Luck Kings Bombshell, is what they call it. It's your standard 3 single coil Stratocaster type guitar. Double cut, you know, all that type of stuff. Bolt on neck, your standard Strat tremolo kind of deal going on there. What is it? 3 knobs, two tone, 1 volume, I think is what it is. Sometimes I forget. My brain don't work too good. As I get older, I got to fiddle with it, but I think that's what it is. You got your standard 5-way selector switch. Now, Strats tend to have a little bit longer, what is it? String length, scale length. There we go, scale length. Usually, right? There are short scale Strats and long scale Les Pauls, but usually, you know, this is a little bit shorter. One nice thing about Strats, right? They come in all kinds of different configurations. Like I said, this is a traditional 3 single coil, but they also have the humbucker single, dual humbucker single humbucker. They come in just about every configuration imaginable, right? And that's definitely a benefit. With the dual cut, you kind of got plenty of access up here at the higher frets, if that's the kind of thing you want, right? So that's some upsides to it. Some downsides, most Strats, not all of them, but most of them come with this type of tremolo, which is not my favorite, to be honest with you. As far as tremolos go, I'm not that thrilled with the traditional Stratocaster type tremolo. Now, you can get them with other tremolos. There are plenty that come with Floyd Rose or other types of tremolo systems, but this is the one that usually comes with it, right? Even companies that offer humbuckers and coil splitting and all kinds of different crazy stuff usually still have either a standard stop tailpiece and no tremolo, or this type of tremolo. Almost all of them, even the ones without tremolos, do come with this nice little bridge here. And what I do like about this, as opposed to the Les Paul, is each string is adjustable on its own as far as height and intonation. Gives you a lot more options. So usually with a Strat, you either have no tremolo or a tremolo that's a standard Strat tremolo. Like I said, not my favorite. Some people like them. And you have a lot more adjustment ability down here at the end, usually, right? Now there are some that is Strats that come with other stuff. Like I said, there are other Les Pauls that come with other stuff. We're talking usually. And I mentioned the pickup configurations because this is the traditional one, but there isn't a standard pickup configuration on Strats. I own, I don't know, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, like 7 Strat style guitars, and they all come with different configurations, right? They're all roughly the same body type, but a couple of them are 7 strings, a couple of them have humbuckers. I have a humbucker single, a humbucker single humbucker. I have my 3 single coils, and I see different pickup configurations all the time. It's not uncommon at all. But almost all of them come with this type of bridge, and about half of the ones I own come with this type of tremolo. The other half don't have a tremolo at all. So that's your usual thing. A nice thing about the Strat compared to the Les Paul is because it's bolt-on neck, it tends to be easier type of construction, right? Which means they tend to cost less. I've found that companies are more able to make a higher quality Strat style guitar at a lower cost, which is really what Leo Fender had in mind in the first place. Doing the bolt-on neck and the modular construction and the way the pickups and everything are mounted to the pick guard and all that kind of stuff. The way it's constructed makes it cheaper and easier to produce these things, right? Once again, that's what Leo Fender had in mind in the first place. It's all modular construction, so just makes it easier so budget companies can make a better product at a lower cost than they would with other types of guitars. You know, it worked in the 50s and 60s, and it still works now. So yeah, and another benefit to Strats is, unless you get like one of those modern style Les Pauls that are thinner or something, these tend to weigh less. These tend to weigh a good bit less, you know? So there you go. Weight does matter sometimes, especially if you're up on stage and you're playing long gigs. You might want a Strat, man. If you're into metal, you might want a dual humbucker Strat or a humbucker single, like Iron Maiden used, you know. There's all the classic Maiden songs, you watch the old clips of them, they got Strats with humbuckers, you know. So there you go. That's a lot of the benefits of a Strat. Another nice benefit with it is everybody makes them. Most companies, most budget companies, most companies in general make a Les Paul style guitar. But like all of them make Strats. They're easier to find and whatnot. And they're, because it's modular, and let me just point out another thing. Because it's modular, it's easier to swap out parts, right? You can get a loaded pick guard for a standard Strat. It's standard size parts. And, you know, very little soldering to do. If you find a company that sells the same size necks, there are different size necks that fit here. Because it's a bolt-on neck, you can change necks out. And it makes it easier to build your own and that kind of thing. Companies like Guitar Fetish sell a bunch of parts. I know with Guitar Fetish, they have two different companies, and the neck sizes are different between the necks and bodies, between those two companies. But you know, everything else is pretty standard. So you can go on Amazon and get a loaded pickguard, and it'll fit most Strats. A lot of them, I haven't taken the pickguard off on this, but a lot of them have different routing in here. So, a lot of them have room for humbuckers if you want to switch over to that kind of thing. And if you're handy at all with woodworking, right, you can run a router halfway decent. You can extend your routes on this to fit humbuckers if you really want to. But usually, most of the ones I've seen have room for them. Before you go upgrading to humbuckers, unscrew your pickguard here and take a look. Make sure it'll fit, because, you know, not everybody is that handy with a router. Let's go over to your standard Les Paul single cut style guitar. This has its benefits and drawbacks too. One of the benefits is they tend to be very pretty guitars. Most of them are set neck. Set necks are nice, right? I found it does give you a little bit more sustain with a set neck. Most Les Pauls, in fact, almost every one I've seen has dual humbuckers, three-way switch. A lot of the traditional ones have your standard 4 knobs, 2 volume, 2 tone. Volume and tone for each one, for each humbucker there. But some of them do have different configurations. Some of them, a lot of them have 2 knobs, where you have 1 volume, 1 tone that controls both pickups. Almost all of the Les Pauls, especially the traditional style ones that you see, have this type of bridge and tailpiece on it, right? Which allows for individual intonation adjustment, but the height adjustment, you have 2 screws, 1 on each side, that you can adjust. So you're limited in height adjustment with these guitars. Now, there are some exceptions. I do have a Harley Benton Les Paul that has a Floyd Rose tremolo in it. Most Les Pauls don't come with tremolos, but some do. There are exceptions, and it's not terribly uncommon. Now, like I said, most Les Pauls have a shorter scale length than the Strats, which can be nice. I find a shorter scale length sometimes play easier, right? My dad has one of those little parlor guitars. He bought a Martin acoustic, and it's like a parlor guitar. So it's short scale length, and it plays really well, right? And I found that with other short scale length guitars. Sometimes they're pretty nice in that way. Les Pauls, a lot of times you can get them with the pretty finishes like this, like the flame maple with different colors and that kind of stuff. You don't see that too much on Strats. And some people prefer the feel of a Les Paul. It certainly is heavier. That is for damn sure. Unless you get one of the more modern thin line ones. These are big heavy hunks of wood most of the time. And like I said, you almost always get them with 2 humbuckers. Some of them have 1 humbucker. They do make a Les Pauls, and they're not horribly uncommon with just a single humbucker. But I don't think I've ever seen Les Pauls with just like the thin single coils. They do make them a lot with, I can't remember what they're called now, the P90s. P90s? Yeah, those, the humbucker size single coil pickups. You know, those P90 pickups. They make a lot of them with those. But they tend not to make them with just the thin single coils, although some of them do have coil splitting so that you can get a single coil sound. My Harley Benton has coil splittings along with the Floyd Rose tremolo. It's also a thinner one, so it's lighter. But that's the exception rather than the rule with these types of guitars. These are going to cost you more too. Just in all honesty, I haven't seen anybody whose Les Pauls cost less than their Strats. Plain and simple, you're going to spend a bit more money. But if you want this kind of guitar, then I guess you're going to spend the money. I own a number of these because I really like them. I like Les Paul style guitars. I like Strat style guitars too. I like them for different things. But, you know, I find with just a heavy hunk of wood and a set neck, I do get more sustain. And it definitely changes the way it plays. I like the weight, the feel of just, you set it in your lap and it's just a heavy guitar. When you pick it up, it's hanging from you. If you got to play a long gig, it might start to hurt your back a bit, I guess, if, you know, just having all that dead weight hanging on you for a long time. But there's something reassuring about it. And they make them in such pretty finishes, so much more than the Strats. Most of the Strats I have are either like sunburst or just a solid color. And they have some wild solid colors like this. But these are pretty finishes they do on a lot of the Les Pauls. And I have a number of them with very pretty finishes. You know, I got this one, the flame maple with the Cali blue. And I got another one back there. My IYV is emerald green with Cali, or with flame maple under it. You can see my Firefly is flame maple with like the red burst over it. It's just pretty. My Wolf is just pearl white. Beautiful, beautiful job on it. And a lot of times you'll get just fancier appointments on a Les Paul. You know, binding, which you don't get on a Strat. And other little odds and ends that you get on the Les Paul that you don't on the Strat. It seems like even with the budget companies, they have the prettier, fancier guitars available as Les Pauls. Strats are just usually pretty basic in that kind of way. But hey, I also find that Strat style guitars, once again, they come with many different configurations and different types of features. You don't usually get tremolos on this, but Strats, yeah, you get a tremolo, and more often than not, like the fancier Floyd Rose type tremolos and the locking tremolos and all that kind of stuff, you're more likely to see on a Strat. You're also more likely to find 7 and even 8 string Strat style guitars than you are on Les Paul style guitars. These almost always seem more traditional, except for in some cases, like my Harley Benton. But in general, I mean, it's a matter of taste. If you definitely want to be able to get a guitar that is going to cost you less with a greater expectation of quality, the Strat, they can just build them cheaper. They're cheaper to build. There's less wood. With the bolt-on neck, it's easier. There's a lot of things that are easier with this so that you can make a higher quality Strat for less than you can the Les Paul. But most companies, when they do make their Les Paul style guitars, most of them make them pretty good. This is my Sawtooth, and this thing is amazing. I love this guitar, but it did cost a little bit of money. You know what I mean? They cost, expect to spend more on this than on this. So there, that's my thoughts on it. That's my thoughts on the two guitars. I don't have a particular favorite of which style of guitar. I really like them both, but for different things. You know what I mean? It depends on what I'm doing. It's why I have a lot of guitars, because I do a lot of different stuff. I play a lot of different styles of music. Sometimes you really want that Strat sound, and sometimes you really want that Les Paul sound. Strats do get a different tone, even if you have a Les Paul with coil splitting, and you can get that single coil sound. I think it's because the Strat is lighter. The bolt-on neck makes a little bit of difference, and honestly, the tremolo, the springs in there, even when it's unplugged, you can hear it echo a little bit. And I think that shines through even when it's plugged in a little bit. Not a ton, but enough that it just has a different sound for when you're doing certain types of music. So I'd say take a look at your budget, take a look at what you're using it for, and make your decision based on that. If you're playing long gigs, I'd recommend a Strat, right? Get the pickup configuration that works for you, but Les Pauls get heavy. I mean, Jimmy Page must have had some pretty good lower back muscles by the time he was, done a tour. I mean, for God's sake, he was playing that dual neck, and those are real heavy. So anyway, I hope you guys found this somewhat informative, right? Yeah. And subscribe to my channel and check out the description. I've got links to streaming for my album, I Didn't Get a Memory by Joe Hopkins. Also, here in a sec, there's an end screen and there'll be playlists. And one of those playlists is my reviews playlist where I review guitars. I did full reviews on both the guitars I was showing you guys today. You can check that out. And I got a playlist for my album, also is on YouTube. And, check it out, man. You might like it. Check out a couple different songs. I do a lot of different stuff on there. Anyway, I'll see you guys in the next video. I love you guys. Peace out, baby. Bye-bye.